Today we're going to focus on, come on now. Today we're focusing on how to access PPP and SBA stimulus funding for entrepreneurs. And we have, my name is Darrin.Campbell. I'm one of the co-founders of Startups United. Alex is not here today. And on the other line, we have Peter. I'm gonna let him go over. We're actually going to introduce ourselves again, but Pete, you want to say hello?
How's everyone doing today? As you see, I'm Peter.Llaguno. I'm one of the co-founders, Startups United. I'm also the CEO and founder of Culper Technologies. So, Darrin?
Okay. And as he just said, he's CEO of Culper Technologies, which is a residential distributed temperature control system. And I'm the co-founder of IndieONE, which is a media platform for live content. Basically, what we do with Startups United, where our goal is to educate entrepreneurs on finding resources to accelerate their business, to also create networking opportunities for you guys, and also to empower you with tools and ideas which you can then pass on to other entrepreneurs and founders. Today, we have our special guest, which is Jonel Hein. She's a District Director for the South Florida District of the SBA, and she's going to take over from here. Jonel's on you.
Okay, great.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Do you want to go to the next slide?
Sure.
Okay, so we were happy to announce the relaunch of the PPP program with the enactment of what we're calling the Economic Aid Act. It's the Economic Aid to Hard-Hit Small Businesses, Nonprofits, and Venues Act, but that's a lot to say, so we are shortening it to the Economic Aid Act. We're going to go over a few slides. This presentation will be updated as more guidance comes out, but it is in fact the talking piece, the marketing piece that we have for the program right now. So go ahead to the next slide. We're going to talk a couple things, where we are as an agency, the key dates for the program. We'll talk about what qualifies as a first draw under the PPP loan program, what will qualify as a second draw or a second loan, some updates to the forgiveness aspect of the loan, and then what you can do now and additional resources. Go to the next. Yeah, okay. So Congress this round decided that when we were enacting the PPP or re-rolling out the PP program, they wanted to make sure that our agency took steps to help in getting access to the funding to the hardest hit small businesses and those that are in underserved segments, including women-owned, minority-owned, and veteran-owned firms. So we decided that we would initially roll out the PPP loan program for applications from what are considered community financial institutions, those which served underserved communities. In essence, just allowing applications from those gave them a head start to get applications submitted and approved prior to opening it to all lenders. Additionally, we have a platform called Lender Match, which is a tool that can be used by borrowers to help find funding. You fill out some information, some questions about your business and your funding need. And then if there is a lender that is interested in doing the deal, you can be matched with that lender over that platform. So it made sense for us to enhance that platform and allow for people seeking PPP funding to use that platform as well in looking for a participant lender. Additionally, our office, as well as all the other 68 field offices that we have across the nation and the U.S. territories, are offering trainings and assistance to potential applicants and borrowers, along with our network of resource partners from across the country. So there are multiple outlets of resources that can be used in order to access this type of funding. Go right ahead. The next slide, Darrin.
Hold on, I'm having another glitch for some reason.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So these were kind of some of the key dates that started. Our initial guidance on this program rolled out on January the 6th. And 5 days later is when we opened up the portal. Again, to those that are qualifying lenders that are considered community financial institutions. The box over on the right-hand side kind of defines who those types of institutions are. CDFIs that are certified by the Department of Commerce, minority depository institutions, our own certified development companies that help with the 504 loan that we do under the SBA regular programming, and our certified microloan intermediaries. All of those were qualified as CFIs to take these first applications. That was for the first draw on January 11th. We opened up for the second draw for those borrowers that already had a first PPP loan that wanted to go for a second amount of money. Also still open just to those CFIs to give them a little bit of a head start to put in applications from those underserved targeted markets. Last Friday, though, we opened it up for those that are considered smaller lending institutions, those institutions with $1 billion or less in assets. To me, that doesn't sound like small, but in the banking world, the lending industry, that is actually considered small. And just tomorrow, on the 19th of January, we will open up to all participant lenders. But the main thing that we want to mention on this is that the March 31st deadline is the deadline for all applications to be submitted. So it seems like there will be a very short time frame for this particular round. But what we want to ensure is that you know that in this round, we are not necessarily giving automatic approvals. So your lender will submit the application. We've put in some compliance checks at the front end of the loan application this time. So it's not an automatic approval. It can take up to a couple of days for them actually to get the approval number from SBA. And that's just to check that people are using their first draw correctly. If they're doing a second draw, making sure that everyone is actually eligible for the loan. So it's not like there shouldn't be this mad rush that there was last time. And I'll mention a couple other things about it on the next slides that will kind of tell you how the second draw is a little bit different and why the money will probably last throughout the entire time frame through March 31st. Go ahead. Okay, so for the first draws, again, those that did not receive a PPP loan prior to August 9th, that was the ending date of our prior round of funding for this loan program. You still have to meet all of the eligibility requirements that were there during the first round. So, but we are in fact including additional types of entities in this particular funding, which is covered on the next slide. There's also an expansion of covered eligible expenses. We've included some additional payroll items that were not there during the first round. Additionally, for those non-payroll items, we've included operational expenditures, certain property damage costs, supplier costs, and if you had to expend money for your workers for protection against coronavirus, those are also now eligible as eligible non-payroll costs that can be then sought under forgiveness. And additionally, there's a little bit different now in that the borrower can select the covered period that they're going to use. Prior to this, it was either an 8-week or a 24-week covered period with which you had time to disperse the PPP loan proceeds. Now it's a time frame that is specific to your business, but it has to fall within the 8 to 24 weeks. So you can really tailor how long you're going to be using the money to ensure that you can maximize your forgiveness on this. And there are certain borrowers that may request an increase to their original PPP loan under this program. That was written into the legislation, but it is very limited and very targeted. But again, we're stressing that the expiration date for this round of the program is March 31st or until we run out of the appropriations from Congress. Let's go to the next slide. So for eligibility, like I said, for the first draw, a very first loan under PPP, you still have to comply with our size standards, all of the eligibility criteria that were there before. I mentioned that we had expanded those entities that would be eligible to apply for this. So newly eligible are our housing cooperatives, what's called a destination marketing organization. And the example that our field office gave us is a smaller chamber that might have a visitor bureau attached to it in a rural area. That would be a destination marketing organization. Certain 501c6 organizations such as chambers of commerce, and eligible news organizations. Let's see here. Then those that are still eligible, all the other types of business entities still eligible, partnerships, corporations, LLCs, including the sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed individuals, the 50C3 nonprofit organizations, our veterans organizations that have a designation of 501c19, and all the tribal businesses are still eligible as well. Go to the next slide. So for the second draw, again, you'd be eligible for this if you had previously received a PPP loan under the first round of funding. However, with this one, it's limited to 300 employees or less. In the first draw, it's 500 or more. So we're, again, targeting those smaller businesses. But the added caveat is that business has to have suffered a 25% reduction in gross receipts. So for most borrowers, the maximum draw on the first loan is 2.5 average monthly payroll costs, either from 2019 or 2020 up to $10 million. That's the first draw. The second draw, it's 2.5 average monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll costs up to $2 million. Again, allowing a second draw, but a smaller amount of money that can be had per each business. However, we recognize that there are some businesses that have been harder hit by the coronavirus than others. So the accommodation and food services sector, they actually get to draw a second loan at 3.5 times their average monthly payroll costs from either 2019 or 2020, but still limited up to just a $2 million loan amount. Let's see here. There is some differences. We're mentioning 2020 payroll cost because not all businesses were in business for the entire year of 2019. So the application form actually has a couple of different scenarios on how to base that amount of your payroll costs if you weren't in business the entire year of 2019. So we mentioned that the form is out there on our website, which is sba.gov/PPP. You'll find it for the second draw as SBA form 2483-SD, meaning second draw. And it says that you would use that to apply with your lender. However, please remember that just like our first round of funding, you don't necessarily have to use our application. Your lender may have created a new application as long as it is collecting the same amount of information. And it may not even be a paper application. It could be just an online application portal. Go to the next slide. Again, there's some additional criteria for this one. I mentioned before, it's not a requirement that if you received a first loan under PPP that you have gone through the forgiveness process. That's not a requirement for applying for a second draw. However, you will have to certify that you have used or will use all of the money from your first loan only for eligible expenses before your second draw is actually dispersed. Again, no more than 300 employees. We're targeting, again, smaller businesses with the second draw. And then obviously you have to demonstrate that you have at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts between comparable quarters in 2019 and 2020. But I want to add a caveat to that. So for example, you would have to show that if your gross receipts for 2019 were $10,000, then your gross receipts for 2020 on Q3 would also not be able to be more than $7,500 if you were going to do a straight comparison. Now, the quarters have to be comparable, meaning third quarter to third quarter, fourth quarter to fourth quarter, if you are in business for all of 2019. If you are not, then you have the ability to flex that out in different ways. And again, that's covered under the application form, the different ways that you can qualify for this if you weren't in business the entire year of 2019. Go ahead. So for loan forgiveness, there was a couple of things that changed with this as well. However, what didn't change is that you still have to apply through your lender. Whoever gave you that PPP loan amount, whether it's the first draw or second draw, you need to apply with them for the forgiveness. Your lender will then review that submission and then submit it on to SBA for a decision. However, there were updates to it because of the Economic Aid Act. The first big one, I think, that is going to be very beneficial to small businesses is that those businesses that drew an EIDL advance That's the cash amount that we had that was enacted because of the CARES Act, an amount not more than $10,000. That no longer will be deducted from the forgiveness amount in the PPP loan. Therefore, actually securing that many more businesses will be able to actually get 100% forgiveness on this loan. Additionally, forgiven PPP loans are not considered taxable income by the IRS. That was another boon for small businesses. And again, the expenses that you paid with your PPP loans are now also eligible to be deductible on your business taxes as well. That is going against the guidance that was initially put out by IRS, and they will have more guidance coming out in the next few days. We will have expanded forgivable expenses that are permissible for any PPP loan not already forgiven. So I mentioned that we added a couple of categories to the non-payroll expenses that you could use for forgivable expenses under your forgiveness application. As long as you haven't already gone through the forgiveness process, this act is actually enacted as though it was started at the very beginning of the CARES Act. So you have the ability to use some of those other expenses as expenses that you can ask for forgiveness for, as long as you haven't gone through the process. If you've gone through the process already, unfortunately, you're not able to amend that forgiveness application. You have to go forward with what you have. But if you did go through the process and we did deduct the EIDL advance, SBA will now go back to that lender to settle up and make sure that there is not a balance left over because of the EIDL advance for each of our borrowers. So that's something new. Additionally, although we have 3 forgiveness applications out on our website, we will now be having a simplified forgiveness application for PPP loans at $150,000 or less. Simplified meaning that it sounds to me like there's not a lot of documentation that needs to be submitted to the lender, as long as the borrower continues to keep the documentation going forward. So again, a much more simplified process for seeking forgiveness, which I think both the borrowers and lenders will be very happy about. You can go to the next slide. So what to do now in additional resources? So we need to have our borrowers and potential applicants stay in contact with their lender. The lender is the access point for this program, and they are going to be the one that has all of the contact with the borrower throughout the program. You're not going to get a lot of any communication from SBA. Everything should be funneled through your lender. However, if you don't have a lender, again, I've mentioned that we do have a tool called Lender Match that can help you in getting matched with a lender for PPP program, if that's what you would like to use. We want to make sure that everyone is using our website, sba.gov/PPP. It has the most up-to-date information, not only just the interim final rules that we've put out, which unfortunately are kind of in government speak, if you will. But I know that we have updated FAQs already out there on our website. And you as a borrower can rely on those FAQs as the interpretation of our interim final rules. It gets it into plain English and gives you some real world examples. So we like to have people rely on that. Now, additionally, we have additional resources. Our website where you can find either your local district office, although we're still on 100% telework here in South Florida, or one of our resource partners. So it can help you with either the application process or the forgiveness process of PPP. And that's at sba.gov/local-assistance. You can subscribe to the SBA newsletter at the updates website that's listed on the screen. If you put in your zip code, your email address and your zip code, you'll actually be added to the South Florida distribution list as well. So you'll not only get updates from our agency as a whole, but those that are things that are coming on and going around in South Florida. We will also still continue to use our social media Twitter account and LinkedIn in order to get information out to the general public as well. But you can always feel free to call our office at the phone number listed on the screen, or you can email our office at the email address that's listed on there. We have people that are manning the phones and the email every day. So quite literally, you can get in touch with us almost every day of the week, except for today. It's a national holiday. And my employees are not working today except for me. So, but yeah, that's the total amount of the presentation. It's just question and answers now. So I throw it back to you, Darrin.
Okay. Before I give questions to you guys, I want to say thank you for you taking the time to do this today on a day off.
Sure, yeah.
We do appreciate that. And any of you participants, if you guys want to come on, you can either turn your mics on or you can do video as well, and you can ask Jonel questions. And since I'll tell you, I'll ask one question because I do have a question. The
Sure.
EIDL loan, I know they're doing an advance for that. So I heard that you guys are doing something where if you're like in a lower income community, you can get a
Right.
higher amount.
So yeah, we're still waiting for guidance to come out on that, Darrin, but you're correct. It is considered a targeted EIDL advance. So the Economic Aid Act allowed that program also to be reopened. There was an additional appropriation provided. I believe it's $20 billion for that. So because of the fact that we had people that didn't receive the full amount in the previous round, it will be targeted to those that received less than the 10,000 in the first round, so they can ask for the difference. But they have to be, again, I believe it's located in an low income area, and I don't have that definition yet. They have to have, again, less than 300 employees. So again, looking for smaller firms. And I believe they have to show a 30% economic loss. But again, I don't know what that will look like and what the comparison will be to determine that economic loss. The other thing I've heard is that it will be opened for those firms that applied after our appropriation ran out in July. As long as they applied before December 27th, they'll have the ability to, again, ask for the EIDL advance. Now, if there's funding left over after those two groups go through, then it might be opened up to newer EIDL applications.
Now, what if they've already, like, say if you've already gotten like a small EIDL loan, how does that apply?
So we're talking about the EIDL advance, which is the grant program. The EIDL loan has no connection other than the name.
I'm sorry, I meant the advance.
Yeah. So if you say you only got 3,000 of the 10,000, then this would give you, as long as you meet the criteria, the potential to ask for the additional 7,000 is what my understanding of that program will be. But again, we're waiting for more guidance on that.
Okay. I think Christine had a question.
Yes. First of all, thank you for working on your day off.
No problem.
So my lender is a certified SDIF, whatever that is, the acronym. And they have like a very kind of back and forth process. So I still have like, I basically had to make a couple edits on the original application and then submit some more documents. And I did that over the weekend. So they're not, obviously going to start, they're in the Midwest. They're not going to start processing that until Tuesday. And I'm worried about them then kind of losing their spot on my particular loan, like being ahead in the game, being a SDIF, because now it's open for everyone on Tuesday.
They won't lose their spot, believe me. I think there are many larger lenders that are building up a loan queue like you're talking about, much like your lender is.
Right.
I think the lenders want to get this right at the beginning, so there's no problems when you go and seek forgiveness. So I can see where there might be a little trepidation on their part to make sure that they're doing, crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's to make sure that the application's right. But really, there is no loan queue with SBA. When the loans come in, there's a variety of ways the lenders can submit them. So, I don't know that it will be something where it's going to be mired down and you won't be able to get funding. I don't see that as a problem this time around.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Maureen had a question.
Hi, I echo the sentiments of being very appreciative of what you guys are hosting today. I have a lot of questions, but I think primarily just to increase my base understanding of this situation. I had received funds last year for PPP. I own a company. I only pay myself as an employee, and then everyone else is an independent contractor. So I couldn't apply for funds for them. I could only do it for my salary up to the max, which is I think $100,000 a year assumption. So I got, I think it was like the $20,000 and paid it to myself then each week. And that's how I used the first round of funding, which was very helpful and very much needed. for the second round, the same situation, I have several independent contractors, but I'm the only one that is considered the employee. But during 2020, in order to compensate for the drastic kind of drop in activity I was seeing to lead me into business for 2021, I had to pivot my business, create a whole bunch of new marketing materials, really update my website, kind of invest in some of those things. So my revenue didn't drop from 2019 to 2020, but now coming into 2021 is where I'm seeing the significant drop in revenue, both first quarter, second quarter, and then everything drops off to $0 projection wise for the year on out. So I'm trying to understand, how do I figure out what my request is for money? Is it still based on the assumption of my compensation only? Or can I request for funds for the increase in marketing? I'm still lost around how much money I can ask for and for what purposes.
Okay, so Maureen, the basis of the loan is always going to be on eligible payroll costs. And you're correct, you cannot claim your 1099 independent contractors, their payroll costs, because they can actually apply for the loan themselves, even though that doesn't seem like what you would want to advise them to do as the business owner. You know, obviously, we don't necessarily want to tell people to get more into debt, but if they are in fact in need, it is open to independent contractors so that they can apply themselves. So your basis of your loan would be based off of just only your income or your payroll expenses for yourself. But because it's a 2.5 times, so 10 weeks, that's why we gave you some additional categories to put where you could spend the money. But again, you have to show, you need to maybe get with one of our resource partners to look at your financials, because you do have to show the 25% decrease, whether it's, one calendar in 2020 to one calendar in 2019. Many, I assume, are going to be using the second calendar quarter of 2019 because that's, or 2020, because that's when most of the shutdowns were happening and many people felt the impact right then. But it's really up to you to choose which one. But in order to be eligible for the second draw, you have to have that decrease. So if you don't, it would make you ineligible for the second draw.
Right. I mean, I think I was lucky that I had held long-term contracts, but all of those expired really at the tail end of 2020 and now into the first and second month. So it seems like this is not really set up for the impact on those types of businesses that have that type of contract set up.
Well, the other question I'd ask, Maureen, is did you apply? I know this is not a forgivable loan, but did you apply for our EIDL loan, the economic injury disaster loan?
I thought that if you apply for EIDL, you can't get PPP or vice versa. I didn't understand it well enough to know whether I qualified or anything. Well,
here's the good news. If they're not mutually exclusive, you can get both of them at the same time. But we just extended the application period for the EIDL loan until December 31st of 2021, or till we run out of appropriation. So you can still apply for that if you wish. And what that loan offers you is a larger range of use of proceeds. So it's for everything. It can cover some of those marketing costs and things like that may not be eligible under the PPP program. But it is a loan. It's written for 30 years right now. They're taking the maximum maturity on it. They try to give you about 6 months of working capital, and it's a 3.75% interest rate. So it's relatively very affordable right now. So that's still open to you and something you should look at maybe.
Okay, and some of the EIDL loan is then forgivable, right?
No, the EIDL loan is not forgivable. That is a loan from day one. The EIDL advance that Darrin and I were talking about earlier, that was the cash grant that didn't have to be repaid. So basically it was automatically forgiven. But again, that is going to open back up as a targeted look to those that had applied prior to 12/27. It may be for newer applications if we still have funding left over. So it may be something that would be accessible to you down the road.
Okay, very helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'd like to ask a question, if I may, Darrin.
Good.
So, thank you very much for working on your day off.
No problem.
I hope you get comp time. So, I don't know if this is the right forum or not to ask this question, but I'm very interested in the grant program. Company I'm with, we were on the verge. It's a healthcare company. a startup. We were on the verge of getting significant financing. The pandemic hit and everybody dove for cover. And we're just embarking on launching into the medical world because of COVID and other issues. What we have is in high demand, but we were so undercapitalized, it's very difficult. And we are pre-revenue, although in a week that'll change. We'll get some revenue. So
Right.
how do we access the stimulus grant program is my question. And
Which grant program are you talking about?
any grant program, you tell me.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, here's the issue. For the loan programs we have for PPP and for EIDL, you had to be in business and operating and generating revenues as of January 31st for the EIDL and February 15th for the PPP program. The EIDL Advance, it did not have that requirement, I believe. But again, it's not going to be open to just everybody when it does reopen shortly. We have a shuttered venue grant that's going to be coming open, but that doesn't sound like what you're doing because it's only specific industry codes, if you will, that will be eligible for that. So I don't know. I would think that you might be able to access some local grants because I know many cities and counties were offering CARES Act grants and or loans that were forgivable for businesses to make it through the coronavirus. But there's nothing that I have in my agency that I think would help you right now that's a grant.
Okay, well,
We have our regular loan programs available, but again, that's again through our traditional lenders, and they're kind of focused on right now a little bit more on the PPP. But
right, I understandably so. All right, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I certainly understand. Thank you so much.
got it. Thank you.
Also, Lee, there are some references on our last webinar. I don't know where you're located, but if you go to our website and look at the second blog, there are some links there that may be applicable to what you're looking for as well.
I'm down in Florida.
Okay. Well, you're in Florida. The webinar we did last week has some links on there for some local grants in like South Florida and some that are national as well.
Thank you. I'll go on the blog and look.
Okay. Jonel, I do have two questions. Now, Maureen asked about contractors. So say the contractors decide to get unemployment, and I know you cannot get PPP and unemployment. So how would that apply in their case?
Well, the independent contractor, I mean, they could up until the time that they get the PPP loan, apply and receive unemployment. But once they get that money, then they're supposed to be paying themselves as though they're getting their regular salary. So they'd have to come off of unemployment and then go back on it after they expend the money during their covered period. They can't do double dipping.
So what if they got unemployment and they never applied for PPP because she claimed them then as contractors and put that into her?
But she didn't do that. So she knew from the beginning that she wasn't. But we did have some people that had sought under the first round some funding and used it for 1099 employees. What they'll do is when they go through the forgiveness process, that amount will not be forgiven once it's realized that they are in fact 1099 independent contractors. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And the second question is with the EIDL loan. Now, say you apply for the EIDL loan initially, and maybe you didn't get it the first time, got denied. How does that work with the second round?
EIDL has stayed open the entire time. We just extended the amount of time that people could apply, but there's still a restriction that you can only have one loan under that program per business. So if you were denied the first time, they would have received a denial letter and it would have told them how to ask for reconsideration. That's the only way to then get a second stab at SBA reopening that application and making sure that they've overcome the reasons for the denial. But it is a process that's available to them.
So in that email, it would have the way to go to get reconsidered?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? None? Okay. Well, if that's the case, then let's see. Screen. So again, I just want to thank everybody for being here today. I just want to let you know we do have one more webinar this week. on Thursday, the 21st at 1 o'clock. And here's our contact information, like I just told Lee. If you want to get access to our previous webinars, you can go to our website, as well as if you have any questions or need the links, they'll be there as well. This presentation will also be posted on our site as well. Again, thank Jonel. I want to thank you again for taking the day to be with us on your day off, and I appreciate that. And if you guys have any questions, you can reach us again on the website, check our email, and look forward to seeing you again next week.